This has been one of the most invigorating days in years for me, thanks to you. You are the great patriots who are going to save this country, and it needs to be saved. You have a tremendous leader in Mark Meckler, who's been through the battles. I know, I've been through the battles too. I never thought I would support this cause until I studied it. Always opposed it, but then I studied it. We've got a great man sitting right here in Tom Coburn, who spent his entire life in the House, the Senate, leaves to join this movement. Because he wants to save his country. And he understands, and I understand, that ideas matter. And when you look at American history, it takes a relative few number of people to make a difference. You know what I'm holding here? I went into my personal vault and I pulled out the December 23, 1776 Thomas Paine, The American Crisis. It's right in here. Definitely need security when I leave tonight. Of course, not from the liberals, they don't care. Original copy of the Communist Manifesto, that would be a different story. And I look at it now and then. It's one of the rare survivors of that period of time, and I think about what those men went through. America did not begin in 1619. But the New York Times began during the Holocaust, which it denied when it began, when it was going on, and right up to the end. This country was not founded in slavery. This country was founded in liberty. It's the United States of America. Other countries were founded in slavery, and slavery persists. Other countries were founded in the radical, progressive, Marxist, socialist agenda, and their people are enslaved. This is America, where people are free to be free. We are not witnesses to history here. We are history. We're not going to watch as our country is devoured by the very people who hate this country's birth. I don't care if they're in the media, in the Democrat Party, or in academia. And you know better than anybody, work in the neighborhoods and the communities, that this is a daunting task. Well, so be it. That's our burden. We have children, we have grandchildren. We're not going to surrender the greatest country on the face of the earth and turn it into another failed European experiment. The Constitution of the United States is the greatest governing document ever conceived. Now, why is it? Because the Constitution of the United States is intended to protect our unalienable rights as set forth in the Declaration of Independence. This country is unique in that it values the individual. Now read the Declaration of Independence. You won't find one damn word about slavery in the Declaration of Independence. If you want to know about your founding fathers and what they created, don't read the New York Times. Read Abraham Lincoln and what he had to say about it. And he did more to end slavery than any human being in this country. even more than Arthur Ox Sulzberger. And what did he say? Well, I paraphrase. It was 1858. He was running for the Senate in Illinois. You know, they didn't have to run. They ran because they wanted to influence the state legislature that was going to make the appointment. What did he say? He waved around that Declaration of Independence over and over and over and over again. And he said, the men who wrote this document, the men who voted for this document, the Second Continental Congress, and put their lives on the line, and were then after hunted by the British, the most powerful military force on the planet. Those men put words in that document to ensure that one day that all men in America would be free and equal under the law. They knew they had difficulties. They knew they had issues to address. They could not resolve them then and there. They were fighting for their existence. They were fighting for their new union. And then we had a civil war. 730,000 dead. 730,000 dead in a nation of about 23 million people. And I'm not even counting the other casualties. Incredible. You know, when America decided to get into World War II after we were attacked by the Japanese at Pearl Harbor, we were viewed as weak. And Winston Churchill, whose mother was an American, he told his country, America's not weak. You must not know about their Civil War. I read about their Civil War. Thank God we now have America on our side. This nation has fought and fought and fought for liberty. We have fought for our own liberty. We have fought for the liberty of others. We are in one hellhole after another as I speak tonight. Young Yanks in Afghanistan, in Syria, in Iraq, God knows where else. Doing what? Defending our liberty and defending the liberty of other countries. And it's the most diverse fighting force on the face of the earth. Color, religion, you name it. The Revolutionary War didn't begin in 1776. It began several years before. The activity was mostly in and around Boston. It wasn't a united country. They were disparate colonies. Some of the southern states said, what the hell is Boston doing up there? You know, we're selling our cotton and these guys are screwing around. Other states had a similar attitude about it. Well, they lit the fuse for liberty. How many here have heard of Dr. Joseph Warren? Dr. Joseph Warren was the greatest patriot in America until he was killed, basically assassinated by the Redcoats. He was known better than Sam Adams. He was known better than Paul Revere. He was known better than John Hancock. Washington wasn't even known. He was barely known. He helped lead the Boston Tea Party. He's a doctor, a good doctor, trained at Harvard. And he would take in people for free and take care of them. A wealthy family that had a block of homes in Boston, everything on the line. And that's where those British troops were, right where he lived, right where he was, trying to hunt them down, house by house. And he led the resistance. Joseph Warren, who is not taught in our public schools today, who most Americans never heard of before. Well, he's responsible for Concord. He's responsible for Lexington, well, the other patriots. He sent Paul Revere to warn Adams and Hancock that the British sent out a team to assassinate them and hang them. And he was one of the leaders of the Massachusetts militia, a doctor. 2 weeks before the Battle of Bunker Hill, really the Battle of Reed's Hill, but the Battle of Bunker Hill, he and the two other leaders of the militia penned a letter to the New York Assembly begging them for gunpowder. We don't have enough gunpowder and the British are coming. In fact, they're here. Imagine looking over the harbor and these massive British ships with those big cannons. Imagine a relatively small militia, some regular army, but not a lot, with these redcoats marching, 10,000 of them, armed to the teeth, polished, marching beautifully. And there you are, ragtag, bunch of patriots. You don't even know if the other colonies support you. So they dug in on Breed's Hill. They dug in with everything they had. And they brought everything they had to fight the battle. And the British charge up the hill, and they push them back. And the British take significant casualties. And the British run up the hill again and take significant casualties, and they push them back. And the British come up the hill again, and they ran out of gunpowder. New York didn't have any gunpowder to give them. Joseph Warren insisted on staying on the front line, pulled out his sword, aimed between his eyes, and they executed him. Then they dismembered his body. They urinated on his body. They covered it with dirt. 10 days later, Paul Revere, an ironsmith, went looking for his mentor because he had replaced one of his teeth, a piece of iron. And they found Joseph Warren. I have that letter. It's now on display at Hillsdale College's Kirby Center. I gave it to them. I didn't give it to the National Archives or the Smithsonian because I figured they'd stick it in some warehouse. Our nation is full of heroes like this. Now it's our turn. In some ways, this battle is more complicated. This isn't an armed battle. This is a battle from within. What's called, and I agree, is a fifth column. This is a battle that uses the instrumentalities of liberty against liberty. It's a battle that uses the instrumentalities of our Constitution against our Constitution. Uses a free press against a free press. This is a radical progressive movement that was imported from Germany in the 1800s. It's an offshoot of Marxism, Hegelism. The intellectuals at the time who pushed this after the Civil War into the early 1900s included, among many others, Woodrow Wilson. But he wasn't alone. Theodore Roosevelt. The Progressive Party had birth in both movement had birth in both parties, and still does. And still does. Till Coolidge, who rejected it completely, and Reagan, who rejected it completely, and Trump, who instinctively rejects it completely. Our Constitution's under constant attack. It's hard to even recognize it some days. In many respects, we live in a post-constitutional republic. It's not a federal republic because the states really now exist at the behest of the central government. It's not really a representative government because most of what the federal government does through the bureaucracy has nothing to do with representation. It's not really a constitutional republic. Since there is an ongoing constitutional convention in Washington, D.C., every day Congress meets and the court meets. So what do we have? I don't know. But we're fighting to keep what's left, but that's not good enough. We're fighting to get back what is ours. I'm speaking, not you and Mark's group. Just make sure if there's an IRS agent out there, they understand this. We don't need lectures from the Democrat Party about liberty. We don't need lectures from the party of slavery and segregation and Jim Crow about liberty. You, fundamentally, are the only thing that stands between a growing tyranny and a free republic. It's not enough to elect conservatives. It's important, but it's not enough. It's not enough to appoint originalists to the courts. It's important, but it's not enough. It's not enough to elect a conservative president. It's important, but it's not enough. The problems we are facing now involve 100 years of a systemic attack on our constitutional and republican system. And so what's necessary is a willingness to fight back a year, 10 years, 100 years, whatever it takes. By the way, I see one of the great patriots sitting here, my man Chuck Cooper. Who has litigated for decades on behalf of liberty. And I want to thank you. You're not a grassroots. You're an army of patriots. That's what you are. Everywhere I go, I see you. Wanting to have photos taken, carrying petitions around, wearing billboards we call T-shirts, making the case for liberty. There are tens of millions of people who still love this country. There's tens of millions of people who revere our Declaration of Independence. There are tens of millions of people who love our Constitution, who are not represented in one party in this country and not well represented by the other party. That's our constituency, an army of 100 million people. I want to remind you, when the revolution was declared in 1776, 1/3 of the colonists were against the revolution. Many of them fought with the British. 1/3 of the colonists were indifferent, and 1/3 were patriots. The revolutions all over the world that are started with 10, 12 people. Castro started with 28. I shouldn't give Bernie Sanders that idea, but there you have it. Hey, there's more than enough people in this room to carry forth the counter-revolution to the counter-revolution to the American Revolution. And one side's going to win, and one side's going to lose. And I'm not a loser. And you're not a loser. And he's not a loser. You've had a wonderful few days here, and I want you to keep something in mind on the hot days when you're out there, on the cold days when you're out there, on the days that seem lonely out there. This is the way it works. This is the way it starts. You're leading a historic movement to preserve the most magnificent country on the face of the earth. And if you don't succeed, we don't succeed. So some days when it seems lonely out there, stick your chest out and your chin up, put a smile on your face, and know in the end, it is they who are going to be staring at their loafers, not us. God bless you, and thank you.
Go to conventionestates.com, press the button, sign the petition. More importantly, get 10 of your friends to do the same. When you sign the petition, then that sends a letter to your state legislator. You go on the list in their district as a supporter. We deliver those lists to the state legislators. It means something to them.